I need to get back to my notes. I'm not seeing them. How do I get that? I may have to just start over.
Let's click that little X right there, that close.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Go to slideshow here.
Yeah. And then, I'm sorry. And then from the beginning.
Yeah, slideshow.
From the beginning.
From the beginning there.
It's not bringing up the notes. I'm going to have to restart it. That's all right. I'm just going to close it out. It comes up okay on the closeout. Let's see. Where are you, Steve? Okay, here we go. All right. This should be it right here. All right. And I gotta have my notes.
Let's see.
Why don't I have my notes?
Let's try. Yeah, let's go down to slideshow one more time.
Yeah.
Click there.
When I first loaded it up, they were right there.
Go to custom slideshow here. Hit that little drop down. Custom.
No, that's not it. I don't have to do that. Why can't I?
Oh, notes right here. Click that.
Not showing. Not showing. Oh, wait a minute. There they are.
Yeah.
Okay, click to add notes. I don't. All right, we're good.
All right, perfect. They should be at down the bottom.
Except that this should be taking up the full screen. Let's try again. Slideshow from the beginning. Okay.
There you go.
There it is.
And then your notes will be over there.
Your notes will be up there. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is going to be up here, and then whenever you're ready, there's a switch. Yeah, flip it on.
Hello, everyone. Wow, that's loud. Hello, everyone. Welcome. Thank you for coming. My name is Dan Harari. I am a Hollywood publicist and author and the chairman of the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. Stephen Bassett is a longtime political activist, disclosure advocate, and executive director of the Washington, D.C.-based Paradigm Research Group. He founded the PRG in 1996 to end a government-imposed truth embargo, a term that he coined, behind the global extraterrestrial phenomenon. Stephen has spoken to audiences in 20 countries around the world about the implications of disclosure, the formal confirmation by a head of state of the ET presence, which has long been engaging the human race. He's given over 1,500 media interviews and has been featured on CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, The Washington Post, The New York Times, and many other major media outlets. Stephen has also appeared in many documentaries, and he has his own TV show called Paradigm Shift with Stephen Bassett. His countless lectures and interviews are well represented on YouTube. I met Stephen 2 years ago, exactly, at UFO Con in San Francisco. We became fast friends, and then a few months later, he came to LA, where I'm based. We had a long lunch. We looked at each other. He said, Dan, I'm a disclosure guy. You're a Hollywood guy. What can we do together? At the end of that lunch, we came up with the Hollywood Disclosure Alliance. We are the fathers of Hollywood Disclosure Alliance, the HDA. Stephen is the executive director of the HDA. We are the world's only nonprofit organization which brings together UAP and ET researchers, experiencers, and disclosure advocates with Hollywood writers, producers, directors, and performers. The goal of our group is to help nurture and develop the next era of feature films, TV shows, and documentaries based on the real-life experiences of real-life people. We have just about 200 members now from all over the world. If the disclosure movement had a Mount Rushmore, Stephen Bassett's face should be the first one up there. So let's please welcome my partner and my friend, Stephen Bassett.
Pretty good. That was great, Dan. Pretty good. I have to just admit it. It's good. All right, it's not too loud. You okay? You okay with this? Yeah. Okay, a couple of quick references here. All right. I do not aspire to be a Mount Rushmore. I assure you, this is not a good place to go. You don't want to go there. I didn't want to go to Mount Rushmore. It's very difficult. So, but he's kind of my publicist, and so it's his job, okay? And then the other thing is that show, Paradigm Shift, that actually never happened. It's an old bio. Dan saw it. No, I didn't. You said I had a show, right? You mean like a show? I'm going to be the host, that kind of thing? Well, anyway, the point is I tried to put something together. It was like January of 2020. You may recall, okay? Something happened around then that kind of made things difficult. So rather than do the show, I boarded up the office, shut down all the holes and everything to keep any air out, and just bunkered up for about a year and a half. So that didn't happen. However, other things did. So let us begin here. The first thing I want to do, please, is I've been in LA a lot of time in LA since 2010. Enough time that I think I can call myself an Angelino. Hopefully that's not hubris. And so from the East Coast, I watched day after day after day. And what can I say? I had driven all around there, been there many, many times. It was just incomprehensible. So for any of you who were directly affected by that catastrophe, that fire, or you know somebody, my best hope that things will be okay for you and your friends and everybody else, and we'll get past this. And the fact that you're still here today, what can I say? You're warriors. Thank you so much. Okay, now, I'm gonna try to blast through this because I do want to do questions at the end. And this is shut down. That's not good. It's all right. I'll bring it up. Yeah, I don't know why it shut down. All right, here it comes. So it just completely turned off. I'll have to boot the whole thing up. So you get to see that's my logo there. I came up with that. That's very good. By the way, while we're killing time here, I just found out about maybe a week ago, because we'd heard about Steven Spielberg's 2026 movie called sort of UFO, and nothing else, all mysterious. But when you announce a film that far in advance, you know it's going to be huge. And of course, that's Steven Spielberg, so naturally we were very excited about it. It's all mystery, don't know anything. Either deliberately or accidentally, about a week ago, the name of this film rather, I don't know if I think it's actually a film. No, yeah, it is, with top actors and actresses. The name leaked out. The film is going to be called Disclosure. That's the name of the Spielberg firm for 2026. I am, of course, already banking on those royalties, right? Licensed stuff going to come in. Sure that's going to happen, right? Expect to hear from any day. But that is a sign of the times, right? That Spielberg's next major movie is going to be called Disclosure, and it's about the UAP phenomena. Okay, why don't we just open this up? That would be helpful. And then let's go here and here. Excellent. All right, look. Well, first of all, I'm going to take this coat off. This is way hotter than I thought. Just a second. Somebody took a clip of that and puts it up on the net. Bassett was taking off his clothes, stripped down, right? Did that thing that happened at the Oscar or whatever, Grammys or whatever. No, that didn't happen. I'm going to try to give you a quick survey of the past, just maybe to get you a sense of the history. I know you know a lot about this. It's okay. But to try to really go where we need to go, you need to be reminded, all right? Now, the full record of this last 77 years is going to fill hundreds, if not thousands, of books. It'll easily be like a 10, 20 series streaming, on Netflix or something. Hollywood, my number and email, or on my website. It's going to be massive. It'll be like the Ken Burns Civil War. All right, it's a massive history that we've mostly just kind of moved on from, but it's never going to go away, and there's a great record of it. So that's how I want to begin. And at the beginning, what is that? I will say that things began during World War II. It's a good place to start. It's not, things happened before that, I get it, but this is kind of the place I want to start. Our planes, the British planes, the Japanese planes, and the German planes all had company. They are flying around in battle, and they're being followed around by these lights, which I think kind of show up there. They're not really prominent, but you can kind of see one in front, one in back. These lights all over the world. They came to be called Foo Fighters, F-E-U, French for fire. This went on and on. It was noted, filed, but they didn't do much. What could you do? You're fighting a war, right? You haven't got time to, let's look into that. No. And so that took place, the Foo Fighters, all through World War II. I'm going to make I'm going to take a wild guess here and say, look, those balls of light, plasmoids, whatever the hell you want to call them, those balls of light are the same balls of light that have been turning up ever since, being reported ever since, decade after decade after decade. They've been around. That's part of the phenomenon. If there's no pilot, it's a drone. If it's being remote controlled, it's a drone. But whatever it is, it's pretty cool technology, and we cannot do it. And the reason I bring this up for sure is this. You may have noted that in the last 3 months, we had possibly the biggest UFO flap in history, in which balls of light were turning up over military bases here, there, and everywhere, not only in the US, but also in the UK. They'd also been going around ships, going back as far as 2 years. Since there's like 300 million cameras on the ground in the United States, they were being filmed all the time. They are all turning up on the social media. We were drowning in images of these balls of light, moving in groups, whatever. It was a real problem for the government, huge problem. What do you do about that? They're turning up all over the internet. They're being filmed. People are talking about it. You couldn't do anything. And they waited and waited and waited, and finally they came out and said, they're drone swarms. Okay. Conveniently, though, they had already started sending our drones up. Military drones were being sent up from the bases, from wherever. Our drones would just hang out in the phenomena. So when you look it up and you're seeing fleets of balls of light going by, they're all of a sudden, oh, It's a dark thing. Oh, it's about the size of a car. Ooh, it's got a little light on it here, a little. That's a drone. That's all they could do. Put up our drone so they could make it a drone swarm and thus grandfather everything else in. In other words, that car-sized thing with a couple of lights is a drone, and now 43 balls of light, oh, they're drones too. That's the best they could do. And so it's kind of interesting that that's just happened and put the government in a terrible position, which we'll get into later. But 1944, 45 balls of light following our airplanes around the Foo Fighters. So what happens next? Again, I'm picking spots through 77 years. The next thing that I want to note is this. Well, you know what it is. You've seen it a million times. It's an atomic bomb.
On 6th August 1945,
That's a
American
Trinity
bomber
test.
Enola Gay dropped an atomic bomb on the Japanese city of Hiroshima.
And then that was followed by the bombs on Japan. That's one of those.
The bomb, called as
All right.
Little Boy, was equivalent to the power
August
of
1945.
15,000 tons of TNT
All right.
and left a terrifying mushroom cloud.
That was the beginning of what I would like to call the extraterrestrial modern agenda. All right. Following the planes around, yeah, just checking things out, you know, see how things are going, right? Nice plane, looks good. But when we dropped those bombs in Japan, that was something else, and they changed their modus operandi, and thus began, and from their perspective, the modern era of this phenomena, which has been intense and growing for 77 years. But other things were happening. Okay. So, as we know, Truman made the decision, put a lid on it, get it. That began essentially the truth embargo. There's several ways to start it, but I like to start it with General Ramey's press conference where he holds up the Reynolds wrap that was in around his fish in the freezer, and Marcel holds it up, and it's a weather balloon. That was Ramey under the orders of Truman. He made that decision. I don't want to second guess him. So that's the beginning, in a sense, of the truth embargo, though it doesn't get formalized for about 5 years. And why? Why did he do it? Look, plenty of reasons. We were already well on the way to a major new confrontation with the Soviet Union. They knew it. They knew it early. They knew it before the public. And an example of that, in 1946, March of 46, Churchill comes over here, gives a commencement speech to a university, I think it was North Carolina, something like that, and for the first time brings up the term Iron Curtain. An Iron Curtain across Europe between us and the Soviets. And the talk and what we were being heard was this: they are the new enemy, they are even more dangerous than the ones we just dealt with, and they are going to have nuclear weapons because we were aware that they were developing those weapons. And so when Truman makes that decision, he's kind of aware of this. It's a national security matter. What have we got? What can we do? What can that tech lead to? Could it be weaponized? Did the Soviets have a crash vehicle? They had all these decisions, so they embargoed it. I get it. It's all right. I have no bitterness there. But then in 47, things got awkward because something crashed in Roswell, as you know, and the base commander, Captain Blanchard, I think it was, maybe Major Blanchard, thought that was fantastic. We've got one of those things. Walter, send out a press release. And so they put out a press release that they had gotten something, and they called it a saucer. Awkward, right? Because that's what the press had called what Arnold had seen, saucers, which really meant saucer, UFO. So they called it they didn't say we found an object. We found something unusual. We found a saucer, forever linking Roswell to this phenomena. And of course, it was exactly that. It was a kind of saucer. It's actually chevron shaped. And that went out to the world. They had to then take that back, as we know. That was the same day. Well, same day they took it back. The article came out the next day. And again, saucer gets used. So whatever they had, they emptied it. It was a saucer. This is all getting ridiculous already, and it's only 1947. And if you've ever seen the front page of this particular Roswell Daily Record, I have the whole thing on my wall in the office. Way down at the bottom, if you ever see it, there is a big article about Mac Brazel. It's a pretty good-sized article, and talks about the Mac had come forward and said, I wish I had never found that stuff, right? I will never report anything interesting unless it's a bomb going forward. And they talked about this and that, and I think he shortly left town not long after that with a brand new truck. But that article doesn't get the attention it deserves because it is so symbolic of what has happened. Just a regular rancher, saw some stuff, brought it into town, basic guy, not complicated, right? Probably totally pro-American, supported the war effort, but problem. So they yanked him off the street, interrogated him for 7 days. I don't think they tortured him. This was 47. And then they gave him a nice truck and he left town. In a way, the government's been treating us like that for 77 years, okay? Right? Drive you nuts with disinformation, run you around in circles, up blind canyons, okay? And then if you need a truck, we could do something, right? Get you something, whatever. That's not the way the United States should operate. Next, again, the situation continued to worsen. So we get into 55, 66, and you're talking about the Berlin crisis. Really scary. And of course, it was over Berlin. They had to put in a Berlin airlift. Everybody was on edge. Anything could happen. And that was 55, 56. So things, not 55, 56, earlier than that. So things are not getting better. The national security basis for completely embargoing the issue regarding ETs is in place. And then 52. What can I say? Now, I believe that, hang on, I've got to go back here. I believe that this is a rendition. I do not think this is an actual film, but it's not clear. As far as I know, there is no film of the lights that, these balls of light that over the Capitol for almost 11, 12 days. So that may be a rendition. If it's not, even if it's a rendition, they were trying to represent what was seen because plenty of people saw it, but no cameras, not so many cameras back then. And then there's some wonderful renditions of the photograph, but no actual photograph, as near as I can tell, exist, but the government has them. But we just didn't have a lot of cameras in our hands back then. So one day we will see possibly more video and photographs of this most important UFO flap up until recently. 11, 12 days, 1952, July, virtually 5 years exactly after Roswell. They're flying all over. We can do nothing about it, right? We sent out a couple of planes. Nothing. What can you do? So what happened next is they had to respond. And the way they responded is they interviewed General Sanford. They had to actually, do it ahead of time. They're going to put that out. And they also interviewed, I'll think of the name in just a second. But let's first go to General Sanford. All right, let's see, 422. All right, here we go. Ooh, that's really small. Well, first this. I love this. This is the interview of General Sanford, okay? They were having a little fun. It was 1952, okay? So they're setting it up. Somebody hangs a saucer over her head. It's cool. It's great. And so this takes quite a while. Let's see.
Both of them. Great mass obligation to the United that making of an obligation to identify
Hang on.
the so-called flying saucers. The Air Force interest in this problem has been due to our feeling of an obligation to identify and analyze to the best of our ability anything in the air that may have the possibility of threat or menace to the United States. In pursuit of this obligation, since 1947, we have received and analyzed between 1 and 2,000 reports.
So the
that
somber
have come to
tone.
the United States.
Hang on, go back here.
That some of them will prove to be of interplanetary
And then they
origin.
also interviewed Rufo.
During a 3-year
And
investigation,
he
I
basically
found that
says,
many
not
pilots
Rufo,
have
Keo.
described objects of
And he
substance
flat out
at
says
high
that they're
speed.
extraterrestrial.
In one case, pilots reported their plane was buffeted by an object which
It's the first thing that comes out of his mouth. And so, essentially, there you have it, right? It's 1952. An extraordinary thing has happened. Don't do that, okay? An extraordinary thing has happened, and the government has to respond, and so you get this somber, standard response from a general, goes out to the public, but there is already developing a pushback against this, and Keo was one of the absolute first, right? Marine pilot, very distinguished, good guy, never let go, and he comes forward when he's asked the question, that's extraterrestrial. Well, guess what? That didn't get too much attention, but Sanford's interview became legend, and that is 1952. And then what we have here, the next thing is 53. And the flight over Washington, D.C., that incredible UFO flap generated this, the Robertson Report, which was designed to address the problem. As you know, a lot of CIA people, almost all white men, very old, got together, came up with a very detailed analysis that you can kind of see here. And the cool thing about this, some fella did this. This is the Robertson Report. It's going to scroll it. And he puts this music to it. Okay, it's kind of elegant music,
This video
and I like
serves
that.
to provide
Classical.
timestamp indexing of the
Okay.
January 1953
This is
report
classical
to facilitate
propaganda, the
discussion
highest
on
order,
YouTube,
right? It's almost
along
like
with a version
it's
of the report,
staged.
which details
So
specific meetings.
that
of
is the
oversight
Robertson panel that concluded,
provided
as
under
we
separate
know,
cover.
that there was not a threat from this phenomenon. Very important thing. A lot of people have forgotten this. Right then, they said, it's not a threat. The threat is the public's interest, growing interest in the phenomena, and therefore we got to deal with that. And that's exactly what they began to do in a very formal, well-funded way, which is the beginning of the formal truth embargo, which would be early 1953.
With link available on record.
And then 7 years go by, and we got this moment. It's famous. Everybody knows about it. This is the departing address of President Eisenhower just before he leaves office. I think it was on the 20th of January 1953. I mean 61. Sorry. This is a very famous speech. It has a couple of very extraordinary things in it, which I'm hopefully going to be able to find the right cue. But the most important thing is this: understand, Truman knew about the ET presence. No question. He may have even seen the bodies, he might have seen the craft, whatever, but he knew. And so did Eisenhower, absolutely. And so for his entire term, he knows there's an ET presence. He knows that we're working on the tech, we're dealing with it, and so forth. He knows that there is essentially a policy that this is going to be embargoed. It's not going to be allowed to the public, and the government will undermine efforts to try to get at the truth. And he's also dealing with the evolution of not the World War III, but the new nuclear situation and the Cold War. It's big. He's got a lot in his plate. So he knows about the risk and the national security. He knows about the secrecy that has had to been built up in order to make all this work. Secrecy is critical to this. And he also knew that the challenge of the Soviet threat, coupled with the reality of the ET presence, was like a license to every national defense contractor, every individual in politics that has a very strong national security bias, of course, no problem. There's some really serious issues here, and they were going to do everything they could to address it en masse. He knew that. And so that he makes the very famous statement, which I'm going to go here, see if I can find it. See, the problem is that this is very small. I didn't realize it was going to be this small, so I may have trouble here. Nope. All right. We all know that he talks about, in the annals history, there is the risk of undue influence by the military industrial complex. And I don't think anybody really got how significant that was when they heard it, and for years later, right? The undue influence of the military-industrial complex. Well, guess what? He was absolutely right. It evolved pretty much as he thought it would, became just as dangerous, or at least certainly a problem, as he thought it would. He was just giving us a little message, a little ahead of time, did the best he could, but it's important for those, and gave it a chance to go online and watch this whole thing. It's really good. Keep in mind, as he's saying this, he knows there is an ET presence. And the next thing, and I'm gonna get out of trying to find the markers here in these things. The next thing has to do with
Remarks
Kennedy.
of the President to the American
So in
Newspaper
61
Publishers Association.
In 61, the President, Kennedy, gives a speech. So now this is pretty early in his administration. So he gives a speech, and it's famous because in this speech, and I encourage you to find this and listen to it all. In this speech, he's talking about the fact that the threat of communism and certainly the arms race and all of this is requiring an extraordinary amount of intelligence and secrecy and all of those things you need to do in order to somehow keep abreast of this, to deal with it. They're spying on us, we're spying on them, right? He gets that, and then he talks about the conflict that newspapers have, because they have an obligation to the country to defend it in a sense, protect it. On the other hand, they have an obligation to tell the truth. And he goes into that, right? And eloquently so. If you get a chance, watch this video and you can listen to some extraordinary eloquence from a President of the United States. And in the end, he talks about how secrecy is a very big problem, but he was going to honor the fact that the public needs to know the truth. It's a famous speech. This is all about the fact that a lot of people knew back then that Truman and Kennedy were at odds. They were really not friends. There were some real problems between them. And so one wonders if Truman might have been open to providing information to John Kennedy, because he was still alive, about the ET issue, which obviously Truman knew about. Well, the fact is that after the election, they got back together, right? This is a quick video of him arriving with his wife, Jacqueline, and John Kennedy to meet at the White House. This is much later, and they had a fine get-together. And then there is these photos, which comes even later than that, where he visits the White House, meets with some top military. So I'm going to suggest that Truman absolutely confirmed to Kennedy that Roswell was real, that we have this matter of non-human tech, non-human bodies, and so forth, to help him make a decision about what to do about it. So keep that in mind, because when you hear some of these theories about what may have taken place toward the end of his life, you can't dismiss them out of hand. And if true, well, you see how serious this matter is. Then what comes up here, we move on to, well, 62. I sat down in front of the TV. I was in high school. I watched it all 13 days. I mean, literally glued to the set. It was one of the most significant things in my life. I'm watching the Cuban Missile Crisis. I'm still a teenager. It affected me greatly. And so this happens, all right, which clearly raises the stakes in terms of the risk of nuclear war, clearly helping to justify keeping the truth embargo in place, all right? And then what happens just not too long after that, we have, by the way, we almost had a nuclear war during the Cuban Missile Crisis, okay? And so only 6 years later, the government finally gets their hands on this issue and drags it down. You know about Project Blue Book? They closed it. You know that they destroyed NICAP, which was a very successful organization with lots of high-level people, scientists, politicians even CIA members were on the board. They basically destroyed it, shut it down. And then they also created the famous, hang on a second, this. Condon
The renewed
report.
interest in UFOs, government acknowledging spending time and money looking into them, it brings us back to one of the last times the U.S. government spent this kind of energy exploring the unknown. It was here in Colorado. Anusha Roy has the story.
Inside Norland Library at CU Boulder is a rare collection.
Materials that don't exist anywhere else in the world.
And one that stands out to Heather Bowden, the head of Rare and Distinctive Collections.
Pretty high up on the fascination list.
Is the Condon Report.
So the Condon Report is still there, nicely ensconced at the University of Colorado. It was an incredibly significant document, this report. It was bogus. It was a lie. It was known to be a lie from the beginning. Condon deliberately knew what his job was to simply try to shut this down. It's a disgrace. University of Colorado has not apologized for it yet. Maybe they will. But again, you see these kinds of things add up. And so the Condon Report was huge in terms of maintaining the truth embargo. So So that's 69. Things kind of quieted down for a while. Not too much happening until a gentleman named Jimmy Carter ran for president. So this issue is just never quite going away. It's always going to be there, and it can pop up in so many ways. So Carter had a very significant sighting when he was governor, talked about it. And then when he ran for president, because he was Jimmy Carter, he talked about it some more and mentioned it. He was probably the most honest man to ever set foot in the White House. And so he got thousands of letters and decided to do something about it, try to get a study together. This gentleman sitting in the front row was part of that study, Danny Sheehan. And so they tried to get something going, but let's just say they weren't getting any cooperation from the CIA or the NASA or so forth. They were what Carter was told is, you just don't go there. You don't have a need to know. He's not the only president that's heard that. I believe that Jimmy Carter knew there was an ET presence, one way or the other. It just means, he had a briefing, he'd been taken around and seen underground facilities. It just means that he knew. He tried to do something. It got shut down. But one of the things it did was launch this gentleman, Daniel Peterson, into this issue, where he's never left it. So that was 76. So he's still in it, and he's in it big time. So in that sense, Jimmy Carter did something very special. Forgot. That would be the fellow right there. Looks the same, hasn't changed at all. Same here, whatever. His contribution to this field is going to take books and books to fully represent, I assure you. And he's not done yet. So what happens next? Okay, so they've shut Carter down, 76, 77. They're feeling good, this is good, right? And then 78 happens. What happened in 78? In other words, you can't stuff this in. It's always going to keep coming back on you, right? You're playing whack-a-mole with the UFO reality year after decade after decade. It just keeps coming back. It drives them crazy. What happened in 78 is a number of people, including Stanton Friedman, found out where this gentleman lived in Louisiana, Jesse Marcel Sr. And of course, he had the whole story of the Roswell, which he really hadn't been talking about because I think it wasn't a good idea. And so he's kind of living in Louisiana, opened up a shrimp company, I don't know, but he's there, and Stanton Friedman gets there. Researcher Moore got there. And so the whole story of Roswell starts coming out in late 78. After all these years, it had just been nicely, ensconced in that, Reynolds Wrap that they showed us back in 1947, and it exploded. Roswell became the most significant touchstone with respect to this issue around the world. From 78 on, it was just a major thing. It's the most studied and investigative event in this phenomenon, I believe, ever. 400 easily interviews have been made by multiple researchers, dozens and dozens and dozens of books. And the sum total of all these interviews of both firsthand as well as the children of, et cetera, absolutely establishes that Roswell happened exactly as we know it to have happened. And the most significant book in that case was Schmidt and Carey, right? Don Schmidt, Tom Carey, they wrote the definitive book, Witness to Roswell. They also did a second edition. If you have any doubts about Roswell, read that book. It's a masterpiece. Right? And so now Roswell is exploding on the scene. It's 1978. Then what? Well, something else happens, right? Just a short time after that, documents start appearing. Microfiche, I believe, sent to several researchers. More, initial one was a gentleman by the name of Jamie Chandra of the MJ-12 documents. Pretty good stuff. Very good stuff. Naturally, it was attacked, absolutely attacked from every side, because the more something is relevant and real, the bigger the attack you will get from either government entities or debunkers, right? The less attack. This, it's gone over for years and years and years. There may be a fake document in that total compilation of docs, but overall, this was a leak from inside by somebody who's watching all these other things happening as we're moving forward and decided to try to help out. Undoubtedly could have gone to prison for a long time. Don't know if anybody did, but those are the MJ-12 documents. The principal research on that was Ryan Wood and Dr. Bob Wood, his father. Ryan is still working. He's going to be talking at the Contact in the Desert. And so what happens next? As you move further into the 80s, a new development, right? I'm sure they didn't see this coming. And that is that this gentleman, Dr. John Mack at Harvard, who is a great man, deserves a Medal of Freedom, Presidential Medal, made the decision, not in his best interest, to take on the matter of contactees, because he was hearing about it, people were talking about it, he was curious, he wasn't afraid, he wasn't a coward, which describes virtually the entire rest of our academic people. Unfortunately, when it comes to something like this, they absolutely just roll up in a ball, climb under the bed, but not John Mack. So he goes and talks to Bud Hopkins and others, and eventually decides to engage it. He sets up an actual organization called the Program for Extraordinary Experience Research in Cambridge, and starts a process of talking and interviewing in order to write professional papers. He did finally get one, maybe two done, okay? What can I say? This is another problem. You've got an esteemed Harvard professor with a Pulitzer Prize writing about this issue, talking openly about it. That's not supposed to happen, right? So we got first this in 1992. I think they held the symposium at MIT. They brought in researchers and contactees from all over, and it was a very significant event. It wasn't open to the public, and the entire event was put into this very thick book called Alien Discussions. I think it goes now for something like $600. This is 1992, right? This should normally have been a milestone, a matter of research and accomplishment, generating all manner of attention, all right? Harvard professor, Pulitzer Prize, totally distinguished. All these other, there's some high-level people there that came to MIT. MIT didn't sponsor it, but Pritchard, Dr. Pritchard, because he was from MIT, was able to get at least the permission to use the facility. MIT wouldn't want to put its name on it that way. They're probably still irritated about that. And so this happens, ultimately leading, of course, to this. John goes ahead and writes a book about his work. It's a bestseller called Abduction, Human Encounters with Aliens. It was this book that got me into this work. I read it in 95, and by the end of 95, I was getting my stuff together to drive to Cambridge and volunteer for John Mack. This book was major. Now, Whitley Strieber has written books. Hopkins has written books. The books about contactees were turning up here, there, and whatever, and you had different cases. Some involved hypnosis, so the thing was sort of happening. Whitley Strieber ultimately set the thing on fire when he wrote, again, my memory is really terrible, Communion. I'm getting old, can you tell? Communion. Now, since he was a very successful author of many books, some of which have made it into movies, when he writes Communion, it's a bestseller, of course. And so they had bookstores back then. You may remember they were called bookstores. They had glass windows and things, and they piled up all the bestsellers in the windows in these funny little shapes so you couldn't miss them as you walked by. They don't have that anymore, but a lot of women were walking by the bookstore windows and seeing the image on that book and getting flashes. What? I'm serious. And that got going, and before you know it, suddenly the idea of contact is emerging in a much more serious way. So I think Whitley, amongst all the other things he's done, he launches that. He launches the beginning of the contactee engagement, which is now substantial and escalated and huge. We know a great deal. However, for important reason, I'll get to it later, it's off to the side. It's just kind of over here, growing, significant, a lot of attention being paid, but it's off to the side. They have to wait to have their stories really told, to get departments of psychology, whatever the hell, talking to them. But that was in 94. What happens after that? All right, at roughly the same time that is going on, because the Cold War is over, the seminal period, when the Cold War ends, I say the fundamental Cold War ended with the Soviet Union collapse between 89 and 91, the opportunity to engage this issue, because the national security rationale goes way down, right? Of course, John Mack's doing his thing. And so consequently, a billionaire Rockefeller, Lawrence, environmentalist, philanthropist, good guy, he's okay, it's okay. He decides to take it on. And so he goes to the Clinton administration and says, I want to engage this issue, I want to give a report to the president, and get some studies going or whatever it would take. And so the Rockefeller Initiative reluctantly began in 93 and went on to 96, 3 years. And this was later in the game, but he was, like Clinton, basically walled off. In other words, they just basically forget it. Not going to help you, not going to do anything. But this was 3 to 6. This wasn't 1977, so it generated a lot of fuss and muss. And a lot of people in the Clinton administration were engaging it and knew about it, including John Podesta and his wife, as well as Leon Panetta and others. They knew about this, but it was stuffed, and so you move on. This is them meeting at Rockefeller's Ranch. This is her carrying the book, which we went to great lengths to find out what the hell that book was. He's walking with Rockefeller. Turns out to be the Are We Alone? Philosophical Implications of Discovery of Extraterrestrial Life by Davies. Interesting. That is a milestone thing. The Rockefeller Initiative is a milestone. They were able to stuff it, right? President Clinton got into deeper trouble in his second term, and so whatever thinking he had about doing something rash as a lame duck president didn't happen. Plus, he knew that his wife was going to run. And so that stops. We get a new president. The issue kind of slides back a little bit. And then this, what is this? This is not playing. Come on. For whatever reason, that is not playing. Oh, I know what this is. This is a very short clip. Again, because now we're in the 90s. We're in the 92, 3, 4, 5 time. And a lot is happening. The Rockefeller Initiative is generating some of that, but the issue is advancing.
Even if, in fact, there is no cover-up.
Okay, so who you're hearing there, let me just go back, okay, is Representative Stephen Schiff.
To be referred to an agency that's supposed to have the documents, and they don't have the documents, is something I've just never experienced. I think the Department of Defense is acting like there's a cover-up, even if, in fact, there is no cover-up.
Representative Stephen Schiff, New Mexico, decides to deal with this issue because his constituents wanted him to. And so he jumps into it. He's trying to get records from the GAO and other entities regarding Roswell. Guess what? And no, not going to give you any records. And no, you've got to go over there. They may have them. So he goes over there. They say, oh, no, you've got to go back to there. They may have them. And then at some point, he kind of settled on, I'll just take the telephone records, right? Just the record of the phone calls. And they said, those all were destroyed in a fire. And so they shut him down, right? And he wasn't happy about it. He went on television and made a fuss. And again, it had a little bit of impact. But let's stop for a second. This is 1994, and a member of Congress is trying to do something about this issue, and basically the DOD is telling him, piss off, right? Forget it. You're just a member of Congress. 1994. Now let's jump forward to now. In the last couple of years, how many members of Congress have gone right into this issue? How many members have actually said there's an ET presence, both on Republicans and Democrats? The legislation and everything else? So that was 94. And so we're basically talking 30 years later. It took 30 years for the rest of the Congress to figure, oh, wait a minute. Stephen Schiff was right. He was. By the way, he died in office not too long after that of a very, very nasty squamous cancer, like the squamous cancer from hell. Let's see. And then he turns up in that period. This is that 94, 95, 96 period. In other words, we're having another resurgent. Things are happening, making it tough on the government. This is, of course, Colonel Corso. And just a quick
George, I've even told
reminder.
you, I think, that I was not interested in seeing UFOs. I was all interested in what was in those UFOs. Anyone familiar with UFO lore will recognize at least some of what Phil Corso says. Reports of crashed saucers, recovered alien bodies, a government cover-up. But in 50 years of UFO controversy, no one of his rank or stature has ever publicly proclaimed this level of inside knowledge. Corso was an intelligence officer inside the Eisenhower White House, assigned to the National Security Council. He also served as Inspector General of the 7th Army and commanded the 1st Nuclear Battalion in Germany. His credentials are impeccable, his record spotless. But did he really handle wreckage from a flying saucer?
They came from a flying saucer.
How do you? That generates more mania, right? Roswell is never going to let the government alone. So he had a very distinguished background and history. He had more of an established background than David Grush. And this is 1994. He comes out. But he was old, near death. They did get a book out, right? Day after Roswell. And it was a little embellished, but it wasn't a mainstream publisher, right? Simon & Schuster wasn't going to touch this. But that was then. And now you jump forward 30 years. How many witnesses are coming forward? What are their credentials? Some of the people that have said there's UFOs here are people at high level in the national security world and intelligence. 30 years. Why does it take 30 years to go from something that clearly true from a person of great stature to finally get to the point where we'll actually engage it the way we're supposed to? I don't know. The best answer I can give, it's the most important issue in the world. It has some of the most important implications. It will generate the biggest paradigm shift in history. And so, yeah, when you get to that level, it's like the pro level, you just can't just get on the ice and get a couple of goals and win the game. I mean, you have to work at it year after year after year to finally get there, and we are practically there. Time magazine puts this out, and the 50th anniversary of Roswell takes place. But leading up to that, again, the government is reeling, right, from this and that. Right, you got the Clinton whole thing there. You've got Stephen Schiff. You've got Corso coming out. You've got the Roswell events coming up. They're just reeling, right? What are we going to do? Like they're doing now. They're kind of reeling right now. Okay, this issue confounds the most powerful nation in the world in all of its defense. Here is kind of how they dealt with it, right? These are, I can't show them all, but if you ever get a chance to listen to the whole damn thing, it's really cool. They came out with a completely bogus report. This was to stuff Clinton, called the Roswell Report. It's all a lie. Cost $11 million. Sheila Widnall, the Secretary of Defense, signed off on it. And then they came up with this, the second report, which was to deal with the second matter, right? Crash test dummies and what have you. And then just like 9 days, or 8 days before the 50th anniversary of Roswell, which was predicted to have 40, 50,000 people there celebrating the Roswell event. Bad look, plus Time magazine. Time magazine was big back then, right? It really was. Big, big, big. Had that cover there. And they decided, let's take some action. And they've done this recently, right? Let's take some action. Now, there's nothing wrong with the government taking action to deal with something they consider national security. What is wrong is the action they take makes them look like complete idiots. I mean, really, massively stupid stuff that's an embarrassment, not only to humans, but I think the ET's looking down and going, oh, I can't believe you did that. Are you kidding me? And I'm talking about the infamous press conference held at the Department of Defense. Colonel Haynes, gentleman by the name Haynes, came out to try to staunch, the fires. Try to slow this thing down here, okay? Didn't go well. Let's take a look at how that went.
Hearings, and we'll take your phone calls. The Watergate 25th Anniversary Series airs each weeknight next week at 8 Eastern Time, 5 Pacific. Next, an Air Force report on a 1947 incident in Roswell, New Mexico. Yesterday, the Air Force issued a report at the Pentagon that they hope will close the book on rumors that they recovered a flying saucer and extraterrestrial bodies near Roswell 50 years ago and then covered it up. During this news conference, you'll hear from Colonel John Haynes of the Air Force Declassification Review Team. His comments are about 20 minutes.
Not going to do the whole 20. This is classic stuff. Give me my mouse. Here we go.
Okay.
Hearings, and we'll take your phone calls.
Hello. Come on.
Hearings, and we'll...
There we go.
Well, this information was uncovered as we were preparing to publish that first book. We were actually looking for pictures. We had looked at all the information that surrounded 1947 and found absolutely nothing. But as we got into the out years, we realized that the Air Force had some other quite intriguing, I'll say it one more time, experiments that were going on that could be misconstrued.
Crash test dummies or bodies.
That's one of the reasons it was decided to publish the book. Yes, sir.
Did Captain McMaster or any of the other analysts come across any evidence that apart from the silver paper discs that went up with the high altitude balloons, that the Air Force conducted during this rather wide time frame, any other aerodynamic experiments involving manned or unmanned craft that looked like flying saucers?
Well, you saw the payloads in the book. We saw them in the film. And I think those could easily be confused for that, too. And it is Captain McAndrew. I'm just so you'll get the... Yes, sir.
But sorry, just apart from those,
yes, sir,
going up on the balloon, were there any other Air Force experiments that you know of involving craft that looked like flying saucers?
No, sir.
Whatever the experiment...
Well, there were some other balloons, and there's some balloon shapes in here you might want to look at, too, that are very intriguing. In fact, they look a lot like some other people's pictures. Yes, sir.
We have time for one more question, and that's it.
I think she's going to deal with that question when I finish. One more question.
Do you believe in UFOs?
Personally, no, sir.
Okay. So,
No big deal. But then they addressed the matter of the bodies that were seen. Right? The press got around to that, and then things went really downhill very fast.
Well, this information was uncovered as we were preparing to publish that first book. We were actually looking for pictures.
Whoops. Let's go here.
Well, the dummy test, actually, you need to get the book. Actually, you need to look in here. If you look in here, you'll find there are a couple of things in which the dummy tests get lots of media attention.
Yeah.
Well, the dummy test, actually, you need to get the book. Actually,
You can see him struggling.
If you look in here, you'll find there are a couple of things in which the dummy tests get lots of media attention. I have it tabbed and I should be able to find it, but quite frankly, I'm sitting here and my knees are shaking. Page 26.
Yeah. Explain those two things.
Okay, there's the pictures for that. But let me tell you that I don't know why they can't associate that time period. I'm sorry, I just don't have any information for that. All I know is what the Air Force did, and that if you overlay much of their claims and you look at the Air Force scientific research, you can see it's obvious that what we're talking about at Roswell, and I don't mean Roswell in 47 because that was Project Mogul. That was unmanned. I want to make that very clear. And that's the first report. But over that period of time, dummies were dropped all around there. And I think it's logical to assume that the people there saw Air Force ambulances come out, they saw gurneys come out, they saw body bags come out because the dummies were put in the body bags to protect them. They saw people in pith helmets, they saw people in short.
Okay, I won't go on too long here. But I'm trying to make another point. He goes on, they bring up in the questions, but the trash test dummies were 6 feet tall. They had Air Force uniforms on, right? I think they even had blonde hair. And the people were talking, and that was 1953, the people were talking about very small, and he's fumbling and dealing with that. Okay, now why do I care about that? This is the United States government, Department of Defense. These are the people that protect us from the nuclear weapons that are out there ready to take us out any time. We've got submarines, we've got everything. And it's getting worse and worse all the time. This is the Department of Defense. They spend trillions on it. And it is forced to do that. What do you think the effect of that is on the people inside and to the public that figures it out? Right? This isn't some stand-up comedian up there having a little fun. He is representing the Department of Defense. This is 1997. Right? You know how things have gone since then? It's not working out too well. Is it possible that when you have this, when you have a government that can't deal with something like this and has to lie openly and obviously over and over and over again for decades, that is not going to make it easier to have a well-functioning, orderly military defense posture that is supported by the American people? Not that the government doesn't lie. It loves lies a lot. Some of those lies are pretty nasty. We usually find out about them, move on. What's different about this lie is it's not a one-time thing. They have to lie every day. They've been lying ever since Roswell. So that's 7 years of lying. They have to lie every day to keep this going. It's not like tell, oh, sorry, we did that. No. So 77 years of lying, how is that going to work? What's the effect? It erodes trust, profoundly erodes trust. No question that the truth embargo has been a major component to the collapse of trust in the government by the United States people. You may have noticed that. I'm totally nonpartisan here, I assure you. I've always been nonpartisan in this issue. Lack of trust is lack of trust. And if it gets down too low, it's like the blood in your body, right? If you bleed out, at some point it gets down to about this level, you die. Think of the body politic. The blood of a democracy is truth. And as the truth bleeds out, at some point it gets to the point and the body politic dies. That's kind of where we are. And so this is just a glimpse of that. So I'm trying to find the larger picture to these things. Okay. And then, that was 97, got through that, and they go 5 years, and then this happens, right? I mean, it's like, we can't stop this. This is another significant event. Let's see what we got.
The right to speak and the right to print without the right to know are pretty empty. So I believe that the notion of open government, freedom of information, the fundamental tenets of the Freedom of Information Act are really part and parcel of our First Amendment rights. I think it's time to open the books on questions that have remained in the dark, on the question of government investigations of UFOs. It's time to find out what the truth really is that's out there. We ought to do it really because it's right. We ought to do it because the American people, quite frankly, can handle the truth. And we ought to do it because it's the law. So there.
Wow. Let's put politics aside here. All right. John Podesta, obviously, progressive, Democrat, worked for the Clintons, then went on to found a think tank, Center for American Progress. He's clearly a Democrat. But what he said there has no politics at all, right? And that last statement is like you can just put it up, they should put it up at some monument, right, on the mall. The people can handle the truth. They have a right to know because it is the law, right? He adds that, it is the law. And so because he was aware of the Rockefeller Initiative and it got stuffed, the Clintons moved on. She intended to run for president, so they never touched this issue, at least for years after they left office. But he did. He was engaged in the issue in a lot of ways, with Leslie Kean, involving a doc, a book, whatever. So he was kind of keeping the idea alive for when something else might happen down the line. But this is 2002. There's a lot more that went on at that point behind this. The creation for another organization that he was speaking at. A lot was going on, but ultimately it did not end the embargo. However, Hollywood was starting to get warmed up to this issue, okay? And this is the first real indication. I'm not talking about all those sci-fi movies with aliens. It goes all the way back to 1951. There's been 600 of them. They've made a couple $100 billion. I'm talking about a real serious kind of engagement of it by a major player, Steven Spielberg. You probably haven't seen this, and you can find it, but it's not easy. He launched a 20-hour miniseries all about basically contact, but also about the truth embargo, right, and the government policy. It's 20 hours. It ran all over the place, and they ran it they would put up 1 hour, and then the next Saturday they'd run that, and a second one, and they just kept folding it over. Went to the UK, went to Canada, Huge. Interestingly enough, this very significant series was launched 2 months after John Podesta made that statement at the National Press Club. Okay? They were tied together. Taken was connected to the Sci-Fi Channel. The Sci-Fi Channel funded, right, the organization, Coalition for Freedom of Information. And then 2 months later, that movie goes out. Huge, huge impact in a sense, but eventually it fades. So that was happening then. Another effort, but what's notable is that Hollywood stepped in a big way with Taken. Then they kind of took off for a while, but they're back, all right? And it's not, I think it's perfectly poetic that as I started off, Steven Spielberg's next movie is going to be called Disclosure, 2026. That came out in 2002. We're talking 24 years. All right? Boy, would I love to sit down with Steven Spielberg for dinner and just talk about everything he kind of knows about this and when he found out and what he thinks. Probably not going to happen. And so that's 2002. Go 5 years later. What's going on, right? They got the thing under control? No, they don't. They got an election coming up, 2007, and one of the candidates happened to be privy to the Rockefeller Initiative, right? She was involved. Her name is on a number of the documents. She knew all about it, followed the whole thing. Didn't say anything after he won his second term. Didn't say anything after she went off to work as a senator and so forth. But now she's running. And so the issue is kind of coming back a little bit. Not big time, but a little bit. I was out doing some stuff, trying to get some of the word out about Senator Clinton's connection to this issue, but you know, it was kind of going slow. And then they had this debate. Oh boy, this was great. They had a debate, 7 candidates, all right? And so here is this is one of the gentlemen that was running for president at the time, and he was in the spotlight.
Being from New Mexico, Governor, and being the governor of that state, do you believe in UFOs? I mean, it's an odd thing to ask. I wouldn't have asked it, except Dennis Kucinich, candidate for president, U.S. congressman, tonight said that he saw a UFO. Do you think that's credible? Is that disqualifying for a presidential candidate?
Is he uneasy or
to
what?
say you've seen UFOs?
You know, I've never seen one. You know, Roswell, New Mexico is the hotbed of UFOs, and I promote Roswell as a tourism issue, but there is no credible evidence.
About
but
Roswell.
you know, the fact is, Chris,
do you have to be a booster
Chris,
for UFOs
the federal,
to that state?
No. The federal government has not come clean on all that issue, and it should. But no, I've never seen one. I doubt of their existence, but I admit, you know, I'm the governor of the state. I push the tourism promotion side, like Billy the Kid, too. You know, I'm also trying to bring tourism to my state, but no,
Wait a minute!
I don't think there's
Wait a minute! Stop the music! Stop the music, Governor. Did you say the United States government is covering up a history of a UFO sighting in your state? You said the government hasn't cleared this up yet. What are they hiding that you say about a UFO?
No, they haven't. Well, they don't produce documents, Chris. They should just get it all out. And there's a known history about this.
What is the conspiracy? What is your belief
if
that
they
they're
released
hiding?
all documents? Look, I don't believe they're UFOs, but the government has not handled this well over the years. That's a historical fact. It's like on every issue, the energy papers of Secretary Cheney, they overclassify everything. There's too much bureaucracy. But, you know, we do in Roswell, New Mexico, have a tradition.
So that encapsulates the dilemma. He's a good man, right? Basically, good man. And he knows that it's real. He was fully aware the Rockefeller Initiative is taking place. He knows that there's ETs here, but he can't address it, but it's coming out. And because Kucinich had a sighting that got mentioned in Shirley MacLaine's book, he got hit with a question during that debate. This was a Democratic primary debate. That then triggered him getting that question afterwards, Richardson. And it's 2007. So you saw how awkward it was, how difficult it was. But in the end, he tried to give a reason why, it's you know, we should do this or do that. It's caught, right? Can't just do it. Now they're doing it. Burchett goes on News Nation. There's extraterrestrials here, right? Does it several times. And of course, now we have hearings, we have other members of Congress that are addressing this. Thank God. But this is give a look about where it was and how it's taken so long. I'm going to skip through this. What you're hearing here is one person after another being asked about this issue. And then we've got Robert Bigelow, God bless him. He goes on 60 Minutes during in the lead up to the election of 2017.
But on this canyon road just outside Las Vegas, Robert Bigelow's story takes a turn that some may find, to put it lightly, improbable. He told us this is where his grandparents had a close encounter.
What I know.
Do you imagine that in our space travels we will encounter other forms of intelligent life?
You don't have to go anywhere.
You can find it here.
Yeah.
Where exactly?
It's just like right under people's noses. Oh my gosh.
Now that came out, which was, he's a billionaire, he had a NASA contract. That was pretty shocking. That's 60 Minutes. That had some impact. What we didn't know, when he made that statement to 60 Minutes, that he was involved in a program that was going to be announced and come public later, right, in 2017. A little glimpse. So, Clinton makes a statement about it, and we continue to move. Well, then this is about essentially a citizen hearing on disclosure, which is an attempt to get people to come to, witnesses to come and testify before a mock congressional hearing. It was a significant event. Danny Sheehan was of counsel to that event, and he's all over the 30 hours of video that chronicles it. And all 30 hours of that video was provided to every single member of Congress. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to head on to the back of this. Hang on a second. Yeah. This is like, there's so much, right? There is so much. Just get a sense of this. Okay. But now I'm going to kind of, in a sense, wrap it up and ask and get some questions. All right. It's been a long 77 years. And one of the issues we're dealing with as we try to finally get this done, which, and for me, getting it done is disclosure, capital D, the confirmation by the head of state, which would have to be the president, all right? Until it comes from the president's mouth, it's not disclosure with a capital D. It's that simple. A lot of people have said there's ETs here, people in government, members of military, it doesn't count, right? It comes from the head of state. And I assure you, if one head of state starts, the other ones will follow suit. Ding, 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 ding. And within a week, it'll be global disclosure. It will be a global issue, and it will be dealt with globally. There won't be a king of disclosure. In that sense, that's good. It will give something the entire world can address in a very passionate way and in a nonpartisan way, which we certainly need to do. So the situation, though, is somewhat accidental. Disclosure, which is close, it could happen within 45 days. I can answer that in questions if you want. But disclosure is close, but it's happening at a rather unusual time. And it's an accident. They're not really connected, okay? As we get near the end, the United States is going through perhaps its most, how's the word, contentious, radical, partisan, strange episode in its entire history, right? Period. And I'm including the lead up to the Civil War, right? The early days, you know, things were a little rough and ready back then. But in the modern, and certainly in the modern era, including the McCarthy era, the communism thing, you name it, pick any one of those. I'm kind of familiar with them. I lived through them all. The point is that this tops them all. This is as radical, bizarre, difficult, complicated as it gets. I have no idea how it's going to work out. I'm going to continue to remain absolutely nonpartisan in every single way going forward. I've met with members of both sides. I have a lot of supporters from both sides, no problem, okay? But all this chaos is tough. In other words, it's a coincidence. It didn't have to be that way. Disclosure could have happened years ago. But it's happening now in the middle of all this. I do not know how that's going to go. I don't know how it's going to affect the outcome. But I do know this, right? And this is maybe wishful thinking. More than a few members of our Congress now, sitting in Congress now, have stated publicly that this issue is nonpartisan. It's as nonpartisan it can get, and they have treated it in a nonpartisan way. They just haven't said that. They have walked the walk. They are working with each other. They're not undermining each other. It's not being used as a political football or a cudgel. They are really being nonpartisan about it. And then they turn around the next day and do something really bizarre. But you kind of know that they realize that maybe this could be the vehicle that could drive them out of this crisis, I guess you could say, to a safer place. Because it's so big, right? So say we get disclosure. It is so huge, so important, that I think it will be approached in a very non-political way by both sides, with a huge amount of public attention and press and everything else, and an opportunity for lots of legislation. In which case they're working together. And if they're working together and getting a lot of praise from people, boy, that's fantastic. We really love that you did, they're going, ooh, I like that. I like getting praise. I'm getting mostly hate mail now, okay? Maybe this will change the situation. I don't know. I know that the road we're on right now, it pretty much only goes one way. It goes over the cliff. And if we don't go over the cliff, before we get to the cliff, there's a good chance we'll have a nuclear war. It's just literally coming at us like a freight train. You know that. You're seeing it. We're all on some sort of drugs. I'm on Xanax. What are you on? Everybody's on something now. You know that. Just in general, because of the Cold War and 77 years of mutual assured destruction, why do you think we take so much drugs? Even legal prescription stuff. I try to keep it down. Don't get too carried away. I don't get into that other stuff. I'm very, very healthy. But let me tell you, it's not an accident. We need it. To be a sentient person and somewhat aware and watch the news or have a cell phone, you can't escape this. This is an historic time. If there's a civilization down the line, and historians are going to be writing huge stuff about this. It's going to be a huge series about what happened. You're living through it. You're going to be in it somehow. Okay? This is what happened back between 47 and 2030 or whatever, and then all this, and then this happened and that happened. God knows. They're going to be writing about it intensely. This is as big as it gets. Just being around at the end of the Roman Empire, nothing. Right? It's just nothing. One day things are well, the Goths come in, kill everybody, and it's over. No big deal. Right? The rest of the world went on just fine. This is not like that. And I'm doing what I can to try to help people at least get a sense of it. That's why I do all the podcasts and what have you. I'm really speaking to just regular people. I'm not trying to get the attention of the very wealthy or the very well-educated. I'm just trying to help people, regular people, understand this because it's big and it's huge and it's coming. And what is coming is the post-disclosure world, as I call it, the day after disclosure, right? Not the day after Roswell. That was back then. This is the day after disclosure. What a day it will be. And it could be within 45 days. You got a question? How's your shot? Anybody have a question you want to toss at me? Yes? Speak up, do please.
I've been very impressed by Jake Barber and his interview with Bassett. What do you think of him coming forth about the psionics and being able to really connect with the ETs and the crafts?
What is happening in these last years, because everything is evolving and moving forward and we're having all of this stuff, witnesses are coming forward here, there, and everywhere. They're turning up the journalists, they're coming in to speak to members of committees and so forth. It's like watching popcorn. It's like you're just watching it, right? And it's just sitting there, and then the temperature gets to a certain point, and boom, it's going off, bouncing off the walls. There's no way to keep up. In other words, all these witnesses are coming forward. The immediate reaction is, okay, let's see if that's true. Let's prove it, right? Another witness, let's say to run it to ground. It's not easy to do that, and there's so many. And this is a mistake. We already have all the proof we possibly could need to confirm the ET presence. We've got plenty of witnesses, solid as you can imagine. It could testify tomorrow. And so the new people that are showing up, fine, but I can't deal with that. I don't pay attention because it really doesn't matter now. it's like, oh, well, we gotta see what's going on there, and if it looks like it's not legitimate, got to talk about that and fight about it. The government loves that. The government wants us to prove this over and over and over and over again, just as long as you don't require the government to tell us the truth. So I don't have an opinion then about Jake Barber. I don't have an opinion about Jason Sands, and there's so many others. You're going to have some odd things take place. People come forward, might not be real, might be a little exaggerated. It doesn't matter if we keep our eye on the ball, which is, again, we must get disclosure. We must get that confirmation from the president. In this case, it's going to be President Donald Trump, unless another nation goes first, and there's already rumors about that. There's some rumors about that a couple of nations, I won't name them, are thinking about going first. Whatever. Disclosure is disclosure. So I can't give you any really sense of my thinking about, gentlemen.
What he said is profound. And the fact that his position, being tier one, he has a very reputation. These people that really directly do things for the government, that speaks for them. He's got the proof. He's got a backed up group with many guys. It just seems like what his statements were profound.
A lot of people are coming forward with extraordinary statements, there's no question. And we want to know all about that, all right? But we're really not going to be able to get to the bottom of these countless stories and information that are going to emerge until we get disclosure. Once we've gotten the formal disclosure, then that issue is out of the way. And now everything should be taken seriously and looked at and run to ground. That's fine. Also, the contactees will get in play, and we'll start hearing about them. But right now, right, it's tricky because these people come out, it gets on the internet, it's being passed around, and that's fine, and people arguing and so forth. But that, they have a right to do that, it's okay. But because we don't yet have the confirmation, everybody's still suspect. Everybody is open to being, trolled on the internet. No, that's not true, that's ridiculous. That includes Mr. Barber, includes quite a few others. It's like a fight going back and forth, and the government's just sitting over here and go, okay, good. Argue all you want, right? Argue about this, argue about that. Whoever comes out, just don't put pressure on us, to tell you the truth. So I'm looking forward to hearing his full story with background and maybe even documents after disclosure. And then we'll find out. And there's so much we're going to learn after disclosure, yes. Good question. 45 days. This is why I'm saying 45 days. 60 days from the inauguration. Here is, okay. There's a lot of things happening, all right? First of all, we are aware that Donald Trump is on the issue. He's been asked about it as many times as Clinton was, though didn't give, broader responses, kind of straight in the middle, nothing profound, but reacting to it, okay? So we know he's on the issue, all right? Of course, the leaders of the movement right now are hardcore conservative Republicans in the House. Burchett, Luna, Burleson, Mace, right? But we also have very powerful Democrats that are behind the legislation, like Schumer. And Schumer, just a few days ago, called on President Trump to release the UFO files, right? After his legislation kind of got blocked, they got it in there. Now, so it's happening very, very fast. Let's just say that this is not an unreasonable projection. I don't guarantee anything, right? 60 days from the inauguration, that's March 20, all right? But here is the real telltale. Just slammed in here just a few days ago. So, I mean, a few days ago. A few days before the inauguration, I get a link, right? It's a podcast. I turn it on, put it up, and what podcast is it? It was the podcast I didn't know he had a podcast. Don Jr., Donald Trump Jr.'s got a podcast. And yeah, it's got 1 million subscribers, maybe 1.2 million, 1.4 million. It's a very big podcast because he's Don Jr. Okay, great. Good for you, Don. But who are the guests at this podcast? Ross Coulthart and Louis Elizondo for an hour and a half talking about all of this, the issue, right? And while they're talking, Lou is saying, and by the way, your dad this and your dad that, and then Coulthart is doing your dad this and your dad that. Do you think Donald Trump Jr. brought on two of the most known persons on this process right now to talk about UFOs and ETs and disclosure for an hour and a half, and his dad didn't know it? Little surprise, okay? Maybe even ask him to do it. This is taking it to another level very quickly. We also know other people within his immediate circle are inclined this way. And so All I can say is this. Based upon everything I've seen, the fact that Mace wants another hearing, that she has told me personally she wants the nuclear shutdown witnesses, meaning Bob Salas, Jameson, Jacobs, Schindele, 3 of which testified at the citizen hearing on disclosure. These are the most powerful witnesses, period. When they sit down in front of those cameras, broadcast worldwide, and talk about when the missiles in their flight were shut down while a craft hovered over the base, not once, but at least twice, but probably 5 or 6 times. And that's going to go out to the world, and these are SAC base officers given the ability to launch nuclear missiles. It's game over. And Mace wants those witnesses, so does Burleson. So, and Mace is wanting to call this hearing, and she had to wait because of the inauguration and other stuff, plus all the nominations and other things, but she wants that hearing. I think she's going to get it within about 15 to 20 days. She brings those nuke witnesses in, the stage is set. And then there is this. Just saying. The head of state that steps out, I don't know what platform he's on or she's on, with obviously evidence or following a major hearing, or just does it, and then the hearings follow. The head of state that confirms the extraterrestrial presence achieves in that instance one of the greatest political legacies in the history of the human race, including popes and kings and emperors, dictators, the whole 9 yards. So if the current president would enjoy that, if the current president would appreciate having that legacy, then one would consider that he might very well take it. So again, that's why I'm saying 60 days. There's some other things happening as well, but could it be interrupted? Oh God, yes. Right? I mean, we're living in a, I don't know what the hell we're living in. I mean, anything could happen at any time. Though right now politically things are getting crazy. Overseas, a little settling down there, but again, I've never seen anything like this. And then the last reason, right, why I predict this is this. We've had 14 presidents since Roswell, okay? 13 of them could not address this issue because even the people they appointed to the Department of Defense or the other agencies were going to say, Mr. President, look, this, you don't really need to go there. We can handle this. That's politically problematic, all kinds of issues here. It's a huge thing. And every president has known about the ET presence, I assure you. One way or another, they were tipped off. Nobody gets to be president not told this. Might be at a cocktail party, whatever. But no, and their own people would be saying, no, don't do that. This president is not like the other 13. He will do whatever the hell he wants to do. Not only that, but the people he's appointing to major entities such as the CIA, the Department of Defense, and the Office of National Intelligence, and so forth, are not just his people, they're extraordinarily loyal to him. And so I don't see them going, you know, President Trump, I hear that you're thinking about doing something here or maybe saying something, whatever. I would rather you didn't do it. He's going to say, what? What? He'll do it. And so if he does, he does. It's okay. Right? I think we need to have a major hearing and then the president steps out. That would be more orderly. But if the president just walks out one day, could be any time, and just says, yeah, I talked to my Secretary of Defense, I talked to my CIA director, I talked to other people, they ask around, and yeah, we've got non-human tech and non-human bodies. We're not alone. How about that? Right? We have a presence. Boom. That's disclosure. Right? And the only difference between the two is this. If he walks out unilaterally and just does it, boom, some of the other heads of state out there might be a little reluctant to come forward right away. They might hold back a little bit, you know, just, see what's going on here, what have you, and then the hearings will start right away. There'll be hearings immediately, substantial hearings to back it up. All good, we're in the post-disclosure world. If we have a significant hearing, which doesn't have to be in the Senate now, just the House Oversight Subcommittee would work. If we have another major hearing, a third one, at least of that type, with the nuke witnesses, and then the president steps out and says, well, I saw it, you saw it, I talked to some people. Clearly, we're not alone. The only difference is that probably the other heads of state will immediately line up immediately. They'll come right out and say, yes, 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 that is true. We are aware of this. They may even have evidence. And then there are people who will go, but Prime Minister, you mean you've known all along? Why didn't you tell us? Oh, you didn't tell us 50 years ago. And every one of those heads of state, except, I don't know, about Xi Jinping or Putin, basically say, shut up. But the other ones will go, we deferred to the United States on this. It was your country's call, the United States. the defender of the West, with the nuclear weapons and the financial power to protect us all. We were not going to cut in line and pull that rug out from under you, and their citizens will go, oh, I get that, thank you very much. So that's the two possibilities. Another question?
Yeah, it's just a two-part thing. First, I'm a little surprised that you didn't mention Putin calling out, I think it was either Obama or Trump one, when he said, tell the public about this or I will. That was a big headline.
Have you got a link to that?
I just know that it was a headline.
Okay, I'll look for it.
Right, and so that was the thing, because you mentioned it needs to come from the head of state.
Yeah.
That has already been announced as a headline like 10 years ago.
That's significant. This is recent or a number of years ago?
This was a number of years ago, around 10 years ago or so.
So, and Putin was saying that to what president? Okay, I'll check it out. Look, Putin knows about the ET presidents, trust me. Okay, absolutely. And why he has chosen not to go there, well, one day maybe we'll get to ask him. But I have been saying for 20-some years in hundreds and hundreds of podcasts and interviews, you know, speaking to the Pentagon, which I don't get invited there much. I don't get to go to their parties, but I'm talking to them through the camera. I'm saying, look, if Putin and Xi Jinping are not on a payroll, getting a W-2, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know, with a pension plan and so forth, if they're not working for you, you do understand they can walk out and disclose it at any time. And you're going to be sitting there looking really stupid. Is that a good look? And I kept saying, I've been saying that for 20 years. Still haven't done it. Still haven't done it. They love this truth embargo. They're so down with it. They just can't give it up. They can't. What is it? What's the phrase? I just can't. Whatever. Another question? Yes.
Is there any documentation on President Eisenhower speaking with an alien?
There is a story. There's a bit of evidence. Okay. And it's something that can't be discounted. It would make sense. It's logical. And I think he did get taken to see something, okay? But naturally, given the truth embargo, where everything is now open for, you know, just go for it, what do you got? It's okay. That's been just taken and run off with. Ground state, I think he might have been taken to see bodies, right? Because I had seen him. But in absence of confirmation, that has been elevated in many ways, right up to the point where he was taken, he talked to extraterrestrials, they cut a deal called the Greater Tree, this was swapped for that and everything else, which, how much time, about 4 minutes? 5, okay. Which is, you know, the truth embargo is still in place, you can't really run these things to ground, so as I could be, but the internet makes sure that everybody gets to know it, now it's in consideration. There are thousands of things in consideration you could theoretically address because of the truth embargo. You know, there's not a lot of stuff with respect to hard science, nuclear physics, whatever, that, you know, just kind of come up with a whole bunch of different ideas. No, it's pretty much settled science. So that event is now open to 1,000 interpretations, and some of them are not helpful. If there is no greater treaty, if we did not swap technology and give the ETs a license to, like, take people from their bedrooms, and that's a lie, that is not helping us prepare and deal with this. On the other hand, if it's true, okay, very significant. We'll have to deal with that. But again, we exist in a maelstrom. And I'm not even talking about, you know, pop-ups and ads on Netflix. We live in a maelstrom of propaganda and misunderstanding and misrepresentation. We literally swim in it now. And that's one of the reasons people are getting really upset and taking some radical actions. We cannot stay in that place. We got to get to the truth, truth world pretty soon, or things are going to get bad. So I don't think that that is a treaty, but I do think he was taken to see a body. Yes? Right there. Yes?
This thing, Anna is supposed to announce next week, and then maybe she's going to send it bigger than alien. So what, any thoughts of what she's going to...
All I can say is we're all paying attention. Anna Paulina Luna says going to have some announcement. If it's ET, that would be big. She's got something bigger than that. I'm dying to hear what that is, you know. It was bigger than ETs. I go, okay, fine. But again, I think that the Department of Defense understands the game is over. They understand they've lost. It's just a question of turning over the king.
How much damage?
Well, let me put it this way. The damage will be limited to the generosity of the American people, all right? You want to litigate all the way back 50 years, riot, whatever, you can, or we can embrace the new paradigm that's coming.
National security. They always talk about
Well, yeah, that's still the thing. How will that be emphasized post-disclosure? We're already seeing signs that's not where it's going. All of the nuclear witnesses that were there when there was a shutdown, all of them, put together by Bob Salas and Robert Hastings, I'm not sure, I don't think there's a single one that believes that the turning off of those missiles was in fact a threat. They believe it was a message. And when you combine that with the messages given to the school children at Westall and Ruah and a bunch of other school events that you don't know about, right? They just land, the kids come over, hey, E.T., no problem, they're not afraid. And then you start putting these messages in their head about how bad things are going to get. You add all that together, not a threat, a message. And that's a big deal. You want to get into worldview and stuff, boy, that's tricky. A message, are they from the future and they're telling us what's going to happen, predetermination, that kind of stuff. I try to stay in the middle. You know, I just want to go down the middle of the fairway, I don't get in the woods, try to keep it basic. It's a message, they've been there before, they know where we're heading. Will they help us? You know, they really haven't helped us. They've warned us a lot, but they haven't helped us that much, right? We've done all kinds of terrible things. Another, yes, sir.
Yes, Steve, we've already heard an announcement from this administration through the Carolina Levitt statement.
Yes.
The White House briefing. It was somewhat disappointing, to say the least. What's your...
Oh, okay, I think we'll finish up with the drones. This is great. This is fantastic. Okay, you remember, and I have this in this presentation, which needs to be 3 hours, folks. Put in a word. Steve needs to get 3 hours next year. Here's the deal. You remember Haynes, right, having to deal with the crash test dummies and the time compression, all that crap? So what has happened in the last 2 months, which I think is intentional by the ETs, is the biggest UFO flap in history. It's gone on for really 2 years, but 3 months intense. They're everywhere. They're all over the place. The government doesn't know what to do. There's nothing they can do. Okay, so they put the government in a corner. Okay, fine. Why? Why would you put the government in the corner? Have you lost patience with it? Do you see the nuke thing getting a little too dangerous? And we know that we're so far, we're almost there, but we're pushing back. Let's wrap it up. Let's close the deal. So here's a whole bunch of plasma balls and stuff over your military bases. What are you going to do about that? Well, both said they didn't do anything, right? They didn't know what to do. And so finally, things became a drone swarm and so forth. And so I'm following all this and saying, where is this going? And I can't find the video yet, but here's kind of where it lands. It's a woman reporter, not surprising, got Admiral Kirby up there, and he's trying to respond. This is like the third time. So they're getting more and more information, and so they're really putting it down. So she hits him. Left, right, knockout punch. First question. Admiral Kirby, are these things we're seeing that you say are drones, are they ours? And he says, no. Oh, okay, no. He can't say yes, can he? If he says yes, then the next question, what the hell are they doing all over these, what are you doing? Right? Multiple bases, you're not telling it, they're redirecting planes? We look really stupid, says no. Then she goes with, okay, are they another nation? And he says no. That's absurd. There is no way he could know they're not from another nation, right? Unless they send up helicopters and they shine a light on the tags, license plate, every one of those stupid drones, and they go, no, that's not from France, that's not from Italy, no, that's a negative. He can't say that. He does it anyway, because he can't say yes. If he says yes, they're from other nations, does that mean Russia? Does that mean China? And you're not doing anything? You don't shoot them down? He has to say no. And then she hits him with the knockout punch. Well, then do you know what they are? And Admiral Kirby says, we don't know. That's all you need to know, that they are backed in a corner, they're at checkmate, they're pretty much at the end, they're hoping somehow the ETs will go away, not quite, they're still around, okay, in the corner, checkmate. So, but what happened? And I've been talking about this for months. This is what I think that happened. If it has, send me wonderful emails. If it's not, I don't want to hear from you, okay? The ETs are doing their thing. You got plasma balls everywhere. It's the Foo Fighters times 10,000. What do? They think about it, they think, what do we, somebody can do? And somebody raises their hand and says, here's the deal. You got lots of drones, right? Oh, got millions of them. Every base has got them. We got drones people have never seen. Unbelievable advanced tech and drones. The history of war will be drones. Let's start sending our drones up into the phenomena. Okay? So you got the bunch of light and plasmoids, and he puts their own drones up. So people are seeing those, and then they see the drone. And they're going, oh, it's a drone. So now you call it a drone swarm, and you grandfather everything in. That's the best that they could do, right? And so, and they had, when the rumors came out, it was a Iranian drone ship launching off the coast. They had to put that to bed, right? And then the rumor came out that there really are looking for a nuclear signal because there's a weapon of mass destruction was smuggled in, and they realized that's not good, right? That's not helping people. Could be anywhere. Okay, almost done. And so, and so they are in this position right now, all right? They can't go forward. They can't go back. It's awful, okay? There's only one way out of this fiasco. And by the way, the people who are getting hammered on this were before the president took over. And they'll all be gone soon, all right? There's only one way out of this dilemma, which I think is what the ETs wanted, absolutely. We have to have disclosure. The president confirms the ET presence, then they can explain the drone situation. Yeah, those ETs, and they're flying their little balls of light around, no big deal, didn't harm anybody. And all the other questions. And we enter the post-disclosure era, the new paradigm that Danny Sheehan talks about ad infinitum, right? Named his organization New Paradigm Institute, right? Again, yeah, whatever. So then let's see how it goes in the post-disclosure world. You've been given a tip here, okay? Don't just bet on it on FanDuel. Plan on how you're going to deal in the post-disclosure world. What are your aims? What are your interests? How would you handle it, right? How can you help others? How can you make a buck? They'll sell billions of T-shirts. And that's my gift to you, folks. Thank you so much for coming, and appreciate it.